Alright, I am back with another video, and today we are doing another build request. One of the most popular requests on my channel, especially since I did the acid build, was to do a proper poison build. Now, I wasn't too sure about how I wanted to do poison at the start, because while it would be pretty easy to just kind of load up on the poison boosting gear and just say go, that didn't really feel very interesting to me, so I've decided to combine it with two other elements, while still having a primary focus on poison, but that being necrotic and acid. We'll be able to deal all three of these damage types in a single attack, and still be able to unleash a ton of attacks in a turn, while also being a semi-effective spellcaster, but mainly focusing on utility spells, but you will have the ability to do other things. And you're also going to get a bit of summoning with this build, so we're going to get a ton of stuff all around, and you're going to feel really, really powerful, quite tanky, all that good stuff. Now, if you have seen my acid build, you might know where I'm going with this a bit, but just stick with me for now, because I think you're going to actually find that this build does get quite interesting in ways that you might not expect. Anyways, so let's get into the build. So first off, I want to say that I've chosen a strong heart halfling for this build. This is not necessary, I just have not built a halfling before and I wanted to try making one, and strong heart halflings get an innate resistance to poison damage and being poisoned, but if you wanted another poison damage type thing, you could go with like a dragonborn, like a green dragonborn. That could also work. That would also get you the poison breath attack if you want that, or you could go with pretty much any race class or any race combo you want, but I mainly wanted halfling because, again, I've not built one before. Anyways, our starting class is going to be fighter, specifically because we want the two-weapon fighting style. We are dual-wielding with this build, and you'll see why later, so we need to pick this up as early as we can. And we might as well start off as a fighter in order to get all of our armor and weapon proficiencies that we want, as well as constitution saving throw proficiency in order to be able to maintain concentration a lot easier. As for our ability scores, they're going to look a bit strange. We're going with an 8 in strength. While we could use strength, and if you wanted to build like a strength version of this build using Ethel's Boon and the Potion of Everlasting Strength, you absolutely could. I wanted to try building strength because there's obviously a piece of light armor that I want to use with this build. Sorry, I wanted to build dexterity because there's a piece of light armor I wanted to use with this build. So I wanted dexterity to be our primary kind of attacking stat and for our AC, and you'll see why in a moment. But let's keep going. Constitution at 14, just a happy middle ground there. Intelligence at 12, because I just kind of wanted a different stat than Charisma or Strength to be our soft stat, but you can swap this up if you want. I quite like having Intelligence if we're playing kind of a intelligent kind of, or like a poisoner character who mixes and makes poisons and is like quite research-based. I feel like having at least a bit of Intelligence makes sense, because the way I kind of picture this character is him being a bit of a, I'd say he would be like an acolyte of Leviathan, maybe not like a big worshipper, but definitely someone who kind of dabbles in the idea of inflicting pain. But instead of doing that through like physical damage, like the Leviathan priest in the actual game, I would say this guy is more about doing it through like through poisons and like other things. And as such, has kind of learned to like master a special kind of poison, but he's distilled from a certain natural element, and then kind of, you know, made poisons, but also does like necrotic and acid stuff. So, you know, kind of just like this guy's evil. This guy's fucking evil. Not necessarily a dark urge, but definitely a evil playthrough for sure. And wisdom at 16 because it's going to be our primary spellcasting modifier. As for our skill proficiencies, I've gone with the acolyte background, as I said, for religion and insight, and I've gone with perception and intimidation, so we have at least one charisma skill. Let's keep moving. At level 2, we're going to be taking a quick 1-level multi-class dip into Monk. Now, we're only here really for one thing, but we do get a little bit of extra benefits like unarmored defense, allowing us to use clothing if we so choose, although I'm not for this build. We would also get, but the main thing we're here for is dexterous attacks. Attacks with monk weapons and unarmed strikes scale with your dexterity instead of your strength, if your dexterity is higher. For us it is, and because we started off as a fighter and got weapon proficiency with all weapons, we can now use our dexterity for attacks with any weapon that isn't two-handed or heavy, meaning that all of our weapons that we're going to be using for this build now scale with dex, so we can get more damage off of them. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to reach 20 decks with this build. We're only going to get 2 ability score improvements overall, and we need 1 of them for a feat. So again, if you wanted to drop this monk level, go the strength route, and then, you know, just equip a different piece of armor that's like heavy or medium, you could do that. But I kind of wanted to test this combo, and trust me, it is still really powerful. But there are obviously other ways you could do this. Play around with this concept and come up with what you like. I'm just proposing a different option. But yeah, we're mainly here for dexterity strikes, but we do get things like flurry of blows and bonus action unarmed strikes if we want to use them. And next up at level 3, we're going to be going straight over to our main class, and that is going to be Druid. And you already know where I'm going with this, but I feel like you're going to be really impressed with the interesting combination that comes out of it. As for our cantrips, I think it's quite obvious that we want Poison Spray, allowing us to project a puff of noxious gas that deals 1d12 poison damage. I'm also going to grab Guidance if we are kind of a acolyte of Leviatar, or Loviatar, or whatever his fucking name is. Trust me, I know, I butcher every single deity name in this game. We might as well get a little bit of Guidance to go with it, and it's just nice to have that bonus to our ability checks. As for our prepared spells, take whatever you like. I'm personally going to go with the utility options of Longstrider, Enhanced Sleep, Speak with Animals, and I don't know. I like the idea of somebody who is really good at poisoning also being good at healing, like they work with poisons and medicines. So I'm actually going to take either Healing Word or Cure Wounds, probably Healing Word because it's a bonus action, just to get a little bit of healing on this build. And now we're at Druid level 2, we get to choose our subclass, and you already know where I'm going with this. We are going with the Circle of Spores. This is going to get us some really important things. We're going to get Symbiotic Entity. We gain 8 temporary hit points. This will increase as we level up in Druid. And our weapon attacks have an additional 1d6 necrotic damage while you have those temporary hit points, which is awesome. And we also get to cast Halo of Spores, allowing us to deal 1d4 damage. With Symbiotic Entity, that is going to be 2d4 damage. So overall, we're going to have a seriously tanky and powerful combo with our melee weapons as well. And that necrotic damage does apply to unarmed attacks, so if you do decide to use Flurry of Blows as a bonus action, you do get that extra bit of damage. But we're going to be dual wielding with this build, so you're probably going to be using your offhand weapon more. We're also going to be getting Bone Chill as a little bit of extra necrotic damage as a cantrip, just in case something is something we're fighting is immune or resistant to poison. We're not totally shit out of luck. As for our prepared spells, I think I am just going to grab Cure Wounds, so we have the full utility and healing kit. At Druid level 3, we're going to be getting some extra spells. As a Spores Druid, we get Blindness and Detect Thoughts. I mean, okay, probably not going to really use those. But we are going to get a level 2 spell at this level, and the obvious choice would be Protection from Poison. Now, as we are a Strongheart Halfling, we already have this kind of effect just as a base kit racially, but if you chose a different race, or you want to prevent your allies from being affected by your poisons, then this is a good way of going about it, and I will take it just for the theme. But if you are playing a Strongheart Halfling like myself, take anything else you like, but I want to grab this spell here in case you aren't. Because I know Halflings aren't very popular. I'll be interested to see how this video does if they see a Halfling in the thumbnail, because, trust me, it does affect it. Anyways, next up at level 4, we're going to be getting another cantrip, and I would either take Resistance or Thorn Whip, or any of these would be good, probably except for Shillelagh, since we're not using clubs or staves. So I'm just going to take Resistance to be able to get that guidance benefit, but on saving throws instead. Might as well take it. We also are going to get another spell at this level, and I would quite like something like Enhanced Ability or Pass Without Trace. Something like Hold Person could also be good. Maybe you've made like a Paralyzing Agent. In fact, actually, I quite like that now that I've said that. And we do get to take an ability score improvement here. Now, the weapons that I would suggest dual wielding don't actually turn up until Act 3, so we can take an ability score improvement first, and I want to bump up our dex so we can get that high damage. We'll get dual wielder a bit later, or you can respec and take it earlier once you feel like you have the weapons, but we'll see where we go from here. I mean, you could take dual wielder early and just dual wield weapons other than the ones I've suggested, but, you know. Anyways, as a druid, we are going to be able to get some more spells at level 5, including level 3 spells, and there's nothing up top here that really speaks to me, so I think I am just going to grab Enhanced Ability to get a bonus on those checks. At Druid level 6, we're going to be able to get our main subclass feature, that being Fungal Infestation. Raise a mildewed, mole-encrusted zombie from a corpse. Basically, the corpse must be a beast or a humanoid, and that zombie can actually run around dealing extra damage, but anything it kills also becomes a zombie, allowing it to kind of spread. You've got this like mushroom-based poisonous spore plague that you're spreading, which just creates an army of undead for you, which is super, super cool. We're also going to be able to prepare some more spells at this level. Again, nothing I terribly want here, so I think I will just grab Pass Without Trace. Let's just grab those utility options, although lesser restoration could work, but we have protection from poison for that. Next up, at Druid level 7, we are going to get some awesome spells. Blight being the big necrotic damage spell we've been waiting for. 8d8 necrotic damage on a Constitution saving throw. Again, our Wisdom's not the highest, but it's certainly enough that we could get this spell off a few times if we so choose. Although I am more focused on the melee combat side of things, this is still a nice option to have. And we also grab Confusion, allowing us to confuse a group of creatures. As for our prepared spells, I am going to want to grab Freedom of Movement. We are a little halfling, meaning that Freedom of Movement and Longstrider together are going to be super, super useful for us. But we could also grab some other things if you wanted to go for summoning spells. Conjure Mana Elemental and Conjure Woodland Being also work, but I've done a ton of Druid builds featuring these, so I'm going to skip them for now. Next up at Druid level 8, at total level 10, we are going to be able to get our second feat, and I am grabbing Dual Wielder here. You can take Dual Wielder earlier on, in fact I would probably recommend it now that I think about it, but as long as you get it either here or then, you're going to be getting this build's full power, and like I say, by the time you're at this level, you will be guaranteed to have the 2 weapons that we want. This is going to give us a +1 bonus to our armor class, which we would absolutely love, and is also going to allow us to use weapons that aren't light. Maces aren't light, so we do need this feat. At Druid level 9, we're going to be getting level 5 spells, including the big ones for this build, that being Cloud Kill and Contagion, allowing us to deal a ton of poison damage with Cloud Kill, and Contagion is going to allow us to poison targets with very devastating effects. We're also going to get some more prepared spells, and I quite like Insect Plague. I don't know why, but I've never really taken it, and something about being a poison build that summons like bugs just makes sense to me. I can't explain it, but I just want to take it here. I'm also going to grab Mass Cure Wounds, because again, we do have a bit of healing on this build, so let's get a lot of healing. And finally, at Druid level 10, we're going to be getting our final subclass feature, that being Spreading Spores. While Symbiotic Entity is active, you can create a cloud of Spreading Spores. Spreading Spores, as a bonus action, allows you to deal 2d8 necrotic damage. Seed area and deadly spores that deal 2d8 necrotic damage per turn to all creatures that inhale them except you and your allies. So you basically get to create necrotic poisonous clouds that will deal damage over time. And you do also get the ability to wild shape into a fucking dinosaur, which is rad. I need to do like a wild shape druid focused build, because that shit would be wild. I want to make like a freaking Jurassic Park build. That shit would be fun. And finally, we do get one last cantrip. I'm just going to grab Thorn Whip. Why not? And we do get a final prepared spell. If you wanted to lean more into the summoner angle, you could go with Conjure Element. Unfortunately, we do not get level 6 spell slots with this build, so you wouldn't be able to summon the Myrmidon, which has poison attacks. But if you wanted to, say, go the strength route, drop the monk level and go to level 11 of Druid, you could get that, but it's entirely up to you. I will instead probably pick... I don't know. Let's just grab Conjure Elemental anyway. Why not? Yes, I feel it too. The build is ready. So what we have here is a very, very solid damaging caster type build. We have a melee fighter and a caster here, so we're doing full Gish stuff, which is awesome. We're going to be seriously tanky with Symbiotic Entity. If I cast that now, shabam, we're going to be getting a total of 40 temporary HP on top of our 89 regular HP, meaning that we're going to be pretty tanky even into the end game. And while our Symbiotic Entity is up, we're also going to be dealing that extra necrotic damage, and our Halo of Spores is now going to be doing 2d8 necrotic, which is awesome. We're also going to get a ton of other stuff like Animate Dead, Fungal Infestation, all of our summoning spells, our utility spells. Bro, I kind of regret filming it near you now. You were making too much noise. And also a bunch of... So basically we're going to have a ton of poison and necrotic options. But you may have noticed, hey, Where's the acid in this acid build that you said that you promised? You promised acid. Well, here it is. Here we have the Drakethroat Glaive and the Flail of Ages. Because we are a dual wielder, we can use both to buff each of our weapons with an additional bit of acid damage. Let's get into the weapons now. The main weapons you are going to be using for this build are the Infernal Maces. Now, you can get more than one Infernal Mace in this game. They drop from the Ball Cultists in Act 3, so you can get multiple web copies of this weapon in a single playthrough, which is why I've decided to dual wield them here. And they look fucking awesome. They've got this like green poisonous glow on them. They fit perfectly for this build. With all of our buffs active, that being Symbiotic Entity, the buff, the Elemental Weapon buffs from our bonus weapons there, and just the +3 poison damage bonus that the weapons get anyway, we're going to be doing a ton of damage. And we do get a +7 to hit because technically these are both now +3 weapons. So while it's not the highest it could potentially be, it is still really, really good. And these can also poison the target as well. The target will suffer disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks while poisoned, which is super good. So but again, these are Act 3 weapons, so in the meantime, you can use Leviathar's Scourge. This weapon is going to do an extra 1d6 necrotic damage on each attack. This can stack with your Symbiotic Spores to give it an extra 2d6 necrotic damage, which is awesome. It also gives you resistance to necrotic damage, which feels on theme, and it deals an additional 1 to 6 necrotic damage to... Oh, so yeah, so it gets the bonus from your Symbiotic Entity, and then it deals 1d6 necrotic damage to nearby targets, including the Wielder. Now, so yes, you will be taking damage while using this weapon. However, since you are resistant to it, you will always take half damage from it. Yes, it can be a bit risky in the early game, but it's still a really solid and on-theme weapon to go with until the kind of late game where you get these other maces. And it looks pretty good, and I think it will work quite nicely. And this can be obtained in Act 1 as well, which is awesome, and then you can still buff it with the Drakethroat Glaive to make it even stronger as well. So yeah, that's a good solid Act 1 option until you get the Infernal Maces later on. But let's get into the actual equipment now, and I'll show you why this build is so cool. So, Helmet of Arcane Acuity. When you deal damage with a weapon attack, you gain Arcane Acuity for 2 turns. Arcane Acuity means that you have a +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and spell difficulty class per turn remaining. So, the more that you attack with your weapons, the higher your spell save DC and attack rolls are going to get, and since we're dual wielding, that's going to happen a lot. This is going to make up for our lower spellcasting modifier, that being our Wisdom, so as long as you keep up your weapon attacks, you are going to be able to cast your spells and get those poison conditions off way easier. But if you're not too interested in the spellcasting side of things and you'd rather have more pure weapon power, go with the Diadem of Arcane Synergy, meaning that whenever you flick a condition, that being poisoned, you gain Arcane Synergy, which adds your spellcasting modifier to the damage of your weapon attacks. With our Wisdom at 16, that would be a +3, so you would be pretty strong overall. You can also get this effect as a ring as well, but that requires dealing damage with a cantrip, so I was like, this doesn't really fit the playstyle. So I would say either the Diadem or the Helmet will work quite nicely. As for our cloak, we have the Flesh Melter Cloak. Whenever a creature deals melee damage to the wearer, that creature takes 1 to 4 acid damage. Since we are going to be an up-close melee fighter that's quite tanky, getting that little bit of extra damage, acid damage off when we're attacked, works pretty well. The armor I've gone for is the Armour of the Spore Keeper. The wearer gains a +1 bonus to spell save DC when dealing necrotic damage, and when dealing necrotic damage, my apologies, they deal an additional 1 necrotic damage. So it's a bit of extra damage on all of our attacks, which is nice. That does stack up since we're attacking so many times. And getting that buff to our spell save DC for those poison conditions is super good. But here's the kicker. While imbued with Symbiotic Entity, you can spread Bibberbang Spores, TMS Spores, and Haste Spores. Let's have a look at those. First up is the Haste Spores. Eject a cloud of white spores that haste any creature that enters the cloud. Essentially, you can set this up for your allies, and for 1 turn, they get haste, and if that haste ends, they don't become lethargic, and the cloud will stick around for a little bit, so your allies can keep running in and out of it, or you can just cast it on like a combat zone, and have them just attack over and over again. But be warned, this will affect your enemies as well. You can give your enemies haste with this, and the smarter AI, especially in Tactician, will use this. So, just in case that becomes an issue, we do have haste from the Darkfire Shortbow as well, granting us resistance to fire and cold damage and giving us the ability to cast haste once per long rest, meaning that we can get even more attacks off. Here we have the Spreading Spores feature from our Druid levels. We already went over this. And here we have the Bibberbang Spores. Eject poisonous Bibberbang Spores that create a cloud of noxious fumes. Guess what? A cloud of persistent poison damage. It's super on theme for this build, and that's why I wanted this armor. And finally, the Tiamat Spores, which do the same thing, except these ones befuddle creatures, meaning that the entity basically gets the Confusion status effect, which is awesome and on theme. So basically, this armor was just perfect for this build. And with the dye that I'm using, which is the black and summer green, it looks awesome. I've dyed all my armor pieces that color, by the way. Next up is the Poisonous Gloves. Whenever you deal poison damage, the target needs to succeed a Constitution saving throw or become poisoned. We're going to be doing poison damage all the time, and so this is just going to give us an even higher chance to get up those poison kind of stacks. Although we have so much equipment that can poison, this might be slightly overkill. So if you wanted to swap these out for something else, you could, but this is more or less just going to guarantee that we can poison our enemies, which is going to debilitate them greatly. But since we are going to be poisoning our enemies, as well as inflicting some other conditions, we might as well have on the Boots of Stormy Clamour. When the wearer inflicts a condition upon a hostile creature, they also inflict 2 turns of Reverberation. Reverberation is going to give a -1 penalty to Strength, Dex, and Con saving throws per remaining turn, and when the entity has 5 or more turns of Reverberation, it takes 1 to 4 thunder damage and possibly falls prone. The condition is removed afterwards. Now you may be thinking, the Boots of Stormy Clamour must be useless because once you poison an enemy, you can't poison them over and over again, so you're not going to be getting these stacks all the time. Well, during my testing, and I tested this in a few combat encounters, not just the ones in the combat footage showcase, Reverberation seems to apply quite a lot. In fact, because you technically apply a condition when you're attacked while you have Symbiotic Entity up, I think. Like, for some reason, Reverberation was going off quite a lot. So you are going to get some use out of it with this build, but obviously if you feel like it's not really working out for you, swap it out for something else. But I did find that Reverberation was being triggered quite a bit, and being able to knock our enemies prone and, you know, kind of get that extra bit of damage is nice, but also just having those 2 turns of Reverberation on to just give that penalty also works. So this does work, but feel free to swap it out if you feel like you'd rather have something else. Now let's get into the accessories, and if we're doing a poison build, there's the obvious combo of the Broodmother's Revenge and the Ring of Regeneration. The Broodmother's Revenge means that whenever you get healed, your weapon becomes coated in magic and deals an additional 1d4 poison damage. This tooltip is incorrect. It is 1d4. They need to fix it. And so, if we combine that with the Ring of Regeneration, which at the beginning of every turn we heal 1 to 4 hit points, that means we're going to be able to deal poison damage, an extra 1d4 of poison damage on our attacks every single turn, which is awesome, meaning we get to stack on even more damage than what's even being shown here. And we can combine this with the Poisonous Ring, which lets us cast a unique spell called Virulent Venom. You can choose 3 targets, it says 1 target, but you can actually choose 3, and make them vulnerable to poison damage, meaning that with every bit of poison damage we deal, they're taking double damage, and this lasts for 10 turns. Now, they can succeed a Constitution saving throw to avoid this effect. However, if you want to really get one enemy vulnerable to poison, just cast this effect on them 3 times in a row, and I guarantee one of them is going to do it. So, basically getting double damage on all of our poison is really, really good. So yeah, that is the build. And overall, I'm actually surprisingly impressed with how this build turned out. I was kind of worried that I was kind of trying to build someone who uses martial attacks that doesn't get extra attack, and I felt like it was going to be a bit weak. But the fact that if you just dual wield, you kind of get it anyway, and the fact that Spores Druid has the ability to also attack as a reaction as well, using Halo as Spores, you're still going to be getting a ton of really powerful attacks per turn. And with all the status conditions that you'll be inflicting that are going to really like hurt your enemies in the long run, plus the amount of spells you can do like Cloud Kill and Blight, that he's going to annoy me, that guy. You're going to be able to deal a ton of damage in a single turn, while also supporting your allies and also summoning even more zombies to be able to create an even bigger attack force. You're just going to be one of the best kind of all-around characters in the game. Yes, we don't get things like extra attack, but I feel like, again, the reaction attacks and things like haste and such will make up for that, as well as our offhand attacks as well. So, but if you wanted to build something a bit more like of a martial fighter, maybe go for like Monk and, you know, Druid together, but then again, I've already done that build, so, you know, I wanted to show something different. And again, this is mainly a poison build, and I seriously think we do get a ton of the, like, poison aspect here. It's definitely the focus, but the fact that we get to stack on Necrotic and Acid as well to get that really, like, just absolutely destroying your opponents from the inside out type feel is awesome, and I'm really, really happy with how this build turns out. I'm going to move away from this man. There we go, that should do it. So yeah, housekeeping items. Yesterday's stream, I'm recording this on the Sunday after we had that stream, was amazing. We had a ton of people show up. Everyone was super, super enthusiastic, joined in, had a ton of fun talking about potential builds and all sorts of things. The challenge itself was really fun. We had a really fun time kind of, you know, trying to find encounters where we could learn spells and such. For the record, that's the Blue Mage live stream, if you weren't aware. The VOD is up on the channel. If you want to check it out, just go to the channel and look at the live section, and the VOD is there. But I did create a playlist where you can see it on the main page as well. And honestly, it was just so fun. I was so nervous about streaming, and I even messed up and, like, accidentally, you know, accidentally started the stream like 10 minutes early, and everybody was watching me freaking out trying to set it up. So that was kind of fun. But no, the stream was seriously fun, and I want to do another one again sometime in the future. I'm not sure exactly how soon. Next weekend would be the earliest possible time, but I can't guarantee that that would happen. I might have to kind of just, like, mess about my schedule to kind of see if I can make that work. But unfortunately, it's not guaranteed, but I will try and do another one fairly soon. And I will keep it to weekends because I think that works best for everybody. But yeah, no, seriously, thank you to all of you that came out for that. It was absolutely awesome to kind of hang out with all of you and, you know, just have a fun time chatting and fucking dying and losing an hour's worth of progress. But hey ho, watch the video if you want to see what happened there. As for other stuff, I'm going to be doing more build requests this week. I've got a few that I want to get through, including a build request that actually came up on the stream that basically me and the people that were watching the stream kind of ended up designing together in a way. We kind of got, like, the basic concept laid out, so I kind of want to make that at some point this week. That might be a build that comes out next weekend, so I can actually spend a lot of time on it and make it so it's actually good. But in the meantime, we'll do the build requests throughout the week, and then the deity build of Yondala on the Friday. But yeah, that is going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.